I'm chair.
Chair. Discussion and possible action regarding an update to the Board of Supervisors from the Mental Health Treatment Action or Act Citizens Oversight Committee on progress since the January 7th, 2020 update. Sponsor is the Executive Office. Going to turn it over to Donna Muschetti.
Very good. Not many people get that right. Thank you, Board of Supervisors. Donna Muschetti, Chair of Measure B. The first thing we did it would be last month now, is we approved the 2020 calendar in which we will be having 2 off-site meetings, one in Fort Bragg and one in Willits. They will be set for July and September if we want to have it the correct way. We have not decided which is going to be which because the representatives from Fort Bragg and from Willits were not there and we need to line everything up. But we are going to have 2 off-site meetings and it will be in July and September and we will update you as we go along. The committee also received an update on the status of the architect RFQ and related feasibility study. The architectural services team, Naughton Lewis, as mutually approved by the board and the Measure B committee, has begun to provide architectural services for the pre-design, design, and construction of the crisis residential treatment facility. The architectural team has been supportive of the behavioral health director and attended the January 30th state board meeting. The county and the architectural team have begun moving forward with phase 1 to build the crisis residential treatment facility on Orchard Street. CRT on Orchard Street is projected to have a completion date of 2021. The CHAFA grant ends on December 31st of 2021. So in order to receive the grant, which is $500,000, the completion date does align with the timeline for the county to meet the CHAFA's timeframe. As the architect provides more detailed information, Sarah will be reporting back to the Measure B committee and to you. The legal evaluation, our committee appreciates your direction to County Council to evaluate, research, analyze, and assess the list of questions to determine how to place controls, covenant restrictions, and the implication of doing capital improvements to a facility that is leased instead of owned in order to protect Measure B's investments. The behavioral health training facility, the $500,000, I was going to give all kinds of money away. The $50,000 approved by the committee and by the board to begin improvements to the facility has been spent. Mr. Thomas Allman brought an item to the committee requesting an allocation of up to and no more than $200,000 of Measure B funds to be allocated for final improvements to the behavioral health training facility. Those final facility improvements include, but are not limited to, electronics, signage, paint overcoat, heating improvements, tree removal, possible kitchen, and ADA parking lot improvements. As per your January 7th direction, prior to putting an item of additional funds before you, the Measure B committee awaits for the training facility, ad hoc committee to provide a specific comprehensive plan detailing the costs and purposes of the changes to the building. The ad hoc committee is working to get detailed plans that not only have a cost estimate, but also answers questions directed by yourselves. The ad hoc committee is aiming to provide a plan to the committee in February for review and recommendation of the Measure B committee, hoping the improvement recommendations can be presented to you during your March meeting. The committee also appreciated Supervisor Haschak's attendance during our January 22nd meeting, along with the clarification provided to the committee regarding the training facility proposal plan to be submitted, reviewed, and approved or denied in a future committee and Board of Supervisors meeting. And I have to say, personally, I am not speaking for Measure B. I believe a representative of the Board of Supervisors should be at every Measure B meeting. That's my personal thought. The committee received an update on the Measure B project manager resignation. The project manager has resigned. Her last day will be this Friday, February 7th. The executive office began recruitment on Friday, January 31st. Sarah Duquette will cover the gap until a replacement is found. That is my report. So feel free to fire away.
Supervisor Williams.
Should we read into the project manager quitting? What does that tell us about the way this is going?
It's a hard job, and nobody thought about infrastructure when we started this.
And she probably needed more staffing than she had, which I think was 0.
Most likely.
Yeah. So we still have a problem there that won't be remedied just by finding somebody else to fill that position.
I personally believe you are correct.
Okay, I like your idea about having a board member. I think Check maybe will coordinate which of us will go. I don't want to drive over from the coast and find there are already 2 supervisors in the room. Actually, every time I'm watching by video, so I am following, but I'd love to be there to be able to contribute a bit. And then last, does the B Oversight Committee have the ability to determine feasibility on operational costs of some of the endeavors we're considering? And the reason I ask is I keep hearing that the CRT doesn't have an ongoing cost that it's reimbursed. Well, I've talked to providers of CRTs who say 50% match is the maximum, and in reality, you only expect 45% match. There may be some realignment funds, but in the end, counties absorb a significant cost, hundreds of thousands per year. Do we know if that's accurate?
Personal opinion?
Personal opinion, and I'm asking sort of in the abstract of, is it right for us to assume the B Oversight Committee is the body to be looking at operational costs, or if not, who owns it?
My personal opinion is we don't have the experts to be able to say that. We should ask for, and my opinion again, not directly aside from the committee, is we should go out looking for what operational costs would be. I don't feel that there's an expert on the Measure B committee that could tell you what that is.
Right. So for supervisors, how do we make that happen today, that staff can work with the Measure B oversight to make sure they have the resource they need to pull this off? We've got one shot at being successful here.
Let's see, I'm going to go to CEO Angelo
Yeah,
on this.
thank you, Chair Hashtag and Supervisor Williams. Unless I'm mistaken, county staff received direction probably a month ago to do an operational feasibility study. Part of that study is waiting to get operational costs from Jason Wells for Adventist that, as I recall, spoke with some of these board members about running the 24-hour inpatient psychiatric facility. So whatever this board decides to do today is fine, but if I don't have the direction as staff to work on having a consultant, we even talked about Kemper. Kemper is not available for this, but we're talking about operational costs. So my understanding was staff was to get this information and bring it back to this board, obviously to the Measure B committee, but it would be this board that would make the decision. If I have that direction wrong, I'd like to know. Thank you.
No, that was my understanding of what happened about a month ago.
You don't have that direction wrong, but my concern is the CRT wasn't going to eat into the operational funds. Now that I'm learning from my own research that it may significantly, I feel like we've put the horse before the cart, and it's going to bite us, and that we may find out this Orchard CRT calls in where we can't provide what was promised.
Okay. Supervisor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And where is your next meeting?
Our next is in Ukiah. Nothing's going to change until July,
Okay, and what date?
the fourth Wednesday of every month.
Fourth Wednesday. Okay. Thank you, Don.
Supervisor McCowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're kind of embarking on an agenda discussion that really isn't on the agenda, and we've already given direction on this item. And if we want to go further with it, we should probably put it back on the agenda. I would like to thank Chair Moschetti for a very detailed yet concise report, which appears to have been in writing, which was...
Of course, I can't remember anything.
Well, that's very advantageous to my intention because quite a long time ago, the board actually gave direction, which I suppose really would be a request, that reports be in writing. And if you want to tidy that up a little bit and submit it so it could be posted with the item, then that information would live with the agenda going forward and would be much more informative to the public than just hearing it one time at a meeting. So if it's not too much of an imposition, I'm sure we would all welcome submittal of written reports.
Sounds like my request for supervisorial reports. Supervisor Brown.
And actually, Supervisor McCallan addressed what I was going to further address, but I wanted to ask, so one of your topics is the training center.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I very much like to be there. It is in Redwood Valley. I'd like to hear the discussion.
Perfect. And it's on the agenda in February.
Very good. All right. Anything else? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
All right, so we're moving back to item 5E. Discussion and possible